So a little bit about myself. I started my first quilt in 6th grade. It is still not done. It will never be done because that's before I knew there was any rules and I didn't follow any of them. But maybe you know my mom, and she loved fabric. So we went to a lot of quilt shops, and at that time Diane wasn't into quilting, so she'd go to the grocery store because she liked to refund. But we got her switched over. So now she's into quilting. You know, a lot of times when we went to buy fabric, every time we'd get a panel. You get home, it's like, why did I do that? What am I going to do with this? You never have the right colors to go with it. You didn't buy any coordinates. It won't go. And so when we decided to start the shop, it's like, no, not doing panels. No way. No how. No panels. Well, maybe we'll do Christmas and Halloween. Maybe Easter. But we love the fall fabric. So you got, you know, all the leaves and the trees. And there'd be a deer head popping in here and there. And then Diane went to the quilt shop in Viroqua and saw this flannel panel. And she fell in love. Still has its price tag on it. And so we did not know that they made wildlife panels. And so I thought, oh, they make wildlife panels. I think we should do the wildlife panels. This is going to be Diane's quilt for the home. So someday she's going to start working on it. And, you know, but at that time panels out for, you know, for the lovely things like this. You know, it looked like the grandma and great grandma and whatnot else. Yeah. And I was trying to find more information about panels, and I never really could find anything. And then I was at an antique shop, and I found this beautiful picture package. This was the prettier one of the two. And these wonderful pre-printed panels. I thought, oh, this has to be early. This has to be some of the first panels. I gotta have these. But that's time the package was sealed up. Well, I got it home, unopened, opened it up. It has a copyright date on it. Anyone want to guess what the copyright date on these babies is?
1965.
1973.
Oh.
But I was shocked because I was thinking like, you know, 60s.
Yeah.
But like, these are probably older than I am. Wrong. So I did some more looking around and I found a couple of articles. So the panels really came about the time there was the resurgence in quilting, which would be about the time of the bicentennial. And at that time, there wasn't that many people around to teach other people how to quilt, so a lot of people learned by themselves. And doing a big grandmother's flower garden or Dresden plate was just way too intimidating. So by doing the panels, it was like kind of, it's like the gateway drug to the fabric addiction. It got you started in fabric, and then all things went downhill from there for everything. And panels are not to make an heirloom quilt. They're to make a quilt if you want to do a theme quilt, if you want to make a quilt to have in your bed for Halloween, you need to do a graduation quilt for your cousin's 3rd son and you didn't do anything for boy 1 or 2, so you don't do anything too fancy. You know, it's to do something quick and easy and that you're not wasting your entire year doing a quilt. So this is panels that you can do where you're not taking an entire year to do a quilt. And now it has the panels, they can you'll get the picture of the panel and then they'll have pictures of all the different coordinates that go with it. And so they've gotten better because now, well, the fabric choices is 10,000 times better than what it was even 10 years ago. And way better than what it was 20 years ago. And sometimes people just take the panel, put a border on it, and say that's it. Well, this is a panel with just a border on, but this is a pre-printed border. Oh. So and panels are now, they used to be called cheater panels, but now most people call them convenience panels. Because it makes it more convenient that you don't have to, because nobody wants to be a cheater. But you can be more economical. And a time saver by being something convenient. And then we took and you can take a panel, you can cut it apart. This is a Christmas panel from a year ago, and so you can make like four little wall hangings and 4 little runners out of it. You can get Christmas gifts for your 4 sisters instead of just one. You can tell I'm the youngest, but I like to give my sisters a hard time.
They're not here.
Yeah, they're not here. And then because we love the fall, we got into the wildlife. But this is quilts this is done with the basic cubbyhole pattern. And we mix batiks and regular cottons all the time. This is a batik, this is a batik, that is a batik. This is a cotton, this is a cotton. Wait, no, this is a batik. That's a cotton, that's a cotton. And then we had a customer take the same panel and did what we call the 4-patch posy. This is the exact same quilt, the exact same panel. You take, it's just like doing stack and whack, but instead of cutting triangles, you cut it in squares. And so then you sew the 4 patches together, and then you lay it out.
So how many panels did they use?
So there's 4 panels for the piecing and 1 panel for the middle. And the one thing they did say when you do this, or with the 1 block wonder, which uses the 7, is the ones you use for the piecing should come from the same bolt, because then they will have, everything will be identical and matched. And I think this is kind of cool with his eyes down there. It's kind of spooky at times too. I mean,
Yeah.
And so we did this 4-patch posy, and we used the Stephanie Brandenburg panel, which is a 2 24 by 45-inch panels. We pieced them together, and then we took 4 of the left side of the panel, cut it into the 4 patches, made the 4 patches. Then we took the right side, 4 of the right side of the panel, stacked them on top of each other, cut them apart, made the 4 patches. And then this is a quilt that it would have benefited if we would have had a better design wall. But our design wall is this tall and that wide. That was one time I wish the shop was bigger. And then last fall, Stephanie came out with the moon and the pumpkins.
Oh, yeah.
And so one designer did the pattern. They did pumpkins on the side, and another did the candy corn. The candy corn is just a stripe fabric. So we just took a 60-degree ruler. You haven't done. And then Mike took 7 of the moon panels and did what they call the 1 block wonder, where you take 6 panels, stack them, cut them, and do it in triangles. So is that about a 3-inch strip, or did you do smaller? Larger. Oh, okay. I love quilting on it.
Okay. So you did hexagons as opposed to squares.
Yeah. Yeah. If you want to stack. And then you can also do like the Bargello technique. This is the cheater Bargello.
Oh.
This is the 1 fabric Bargello. Well, then I guess you do add a few more, but let's get the city effect.
Yeah.
This was out of a magazine, and I don't think it was Quick Quilts, or was it Quilting Quickly, or one of those two. This is one of our first patterns that we got for panels. It's called Bricks. It's by Mountain Peak. Probably Mountain Peak and Quilting Renditions are our 2 favorite companies for panel patterns, because the Quilting Renditions patterns are designed by the lady who initially did the first of the Mountain Peak, and then she went out on her own. We probably have 50, 60 different patterns. There's only one we've ever found a mistake in. They're very well written. She obviously takes time. See, and this has a big panel, and these are little vignette squares that came in a little panel that went with it. This one we added coordinating fabrics to make it look like you're looking out the window and the picture just continued with the sky, the water, the beach, the grass. That's where it might be fun to view there right now. This is probably more like the beaches and the lakesides in our area. This is a pattern called Diva 2. And then we added a couple borders to make it bigger. This is a very simple, easy pattern. You just have to remember to cut that angle the same way, because you don't want to go phew, phew, which we've been there, done that. Yep. And then there's, cut it apart to make the attic window. I believe this is a pattern called Modern Window. I guess because they're not all the same size. But this is, doing it this way is nice, because then if you have a big center, you can see that.
I have a question for you. When you do that, can you?
Yes, I will.
So when you do that, do you, like, that panel is fine, but like if you had a deer panel, yeah, do you allow for the window pane?
That's why this is nice, because it has a big area, so
right.
You can move your deer a little to the left or a little to the right, so you're not cutting smack dab down the middle of the face.
Yeah, because I mean, I've seen some where they've made them, and it's like, okay, the deer body's over here, the head's over here, and there's like this,
Yeah.
But I mean, you usually allow for that, or try to?
We usually don't. We usually find a different pattern.
Oh.
The window on the deer and the Santa Claus.
Did the Henry pattern there, which is it stair steps down. We had a pattern that was horses drinking at the stream. Didn't even think about it.
Thing.
Horses ears are here, the nose is down here.
Wow.
And it made this. That was one quilt that never made it even to the next.
Yeah, because I mean, snowman one day at a shop too one time, because the snowman was like cut in half, and it's like, no, that snowman wasn't 8 feet wide.
Yeah. So that's, something like that. We have done some with a really narrow picture window. And then I just cut some of the snowman out about the same width of what that window would have covered.
Right.
So it looks like it is proportional.
Right.
Yes. Yeah. So that's why I tried a different pattern. And this is similar to one that my sister saw up at lacrosse. Nelson Flag.
The river
Roads. Spot Blake's what the name it was. Several years ago, they did a different J. Wecker Frisch panel. And these are, she did a panel with what she called the postage stamps. Then this is a coordinating fabric that was a big print because we needed a few more panels, a few more squares. And this was another coordinating fabric. So. And then the year before, she did these placemats, and we couldn't remember what we're going to do with these darn placemats. So this is a pattern called Cherish. And I was supposed to have a square in here. Oh, we just did a rectangle, just made the dividing rows a little bit wider and had a little bit bigger quilt. And that's a row quilt. Now this is another row quilt. And this one, they just cut the fabric in rows, added the 3-inch strip in between, a 3-inch strip all around. This is probably about the simplest one you can get. Honor is probably the simplest one. I never did bring an honor.
So did you do part of the panel in the corners?
Yeah, we did. We must have did. Yeah, we must have another row. So we did one in each corner. So it must have been 6 rows. So we put one in the corner. Forgot that. You're right. Good to be paying attention. And this is another that used more of a rectangular pattern. And then did similar to like a variation of the rail fence.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yeah, our sun is on the right side. This is one of the first panel quilts that we did. And it came out as a lap quilt in the quick, Fons and Porter did a after Love of Quilting, was it called Quilting Quickly or something like that? And they did it as a lap quilt with a different smaller panel in the center. And Lori Beisker, you know, she wanted to make it queen size. So like, that's a good idea. So we've got a different panel, a wider panel that also had blocks and tried to do this, like, you know, the sky going down to the deer and the horizon, down to the trees, to the grass, and the bottom is the rocks. And then where they lost all their horns in the middle for the antler hunter's paradise. So this was, you know, a fun, easy big quilt to do. That's a lot of fun. And then the Big EZ is a quilt pattern that's done with retro fabric. And I saw the 17-inch blocks. So we did it. Turkeys. We discontinued the pattern. Those little turkeys. This is a Hoffman panel. I saw it, I thought, this is kind of cool, but it's really kind of weird too. What do you do with that? The tree's on the side. Well, then they came out with a pattern where they cut the panel apart. So all of the piecing is with the panel. And then often this panel has several different animals in. And like, they will take photographs apart. This little spark in this cardinal's eye might have actually started out as a raindrop on a leaf. So they would, I mean, so you have somebody who is an artist with the computer designing these panels. And then they did two different patterns that cut those apart. That's the big version. And then this is the baby version. And if you notice, the tail of the hawk goes down into the top of the next block because they gave you no room for error. And then the new Hoffman thing is to do a 2.5 yard panel, because who doesn't want to buy 2.5 yards of Hoffman fabric? Because it's luscious.
Oh my.
So, and these are all bigger panels that they have done. They did a miniature. Well, the next quilt takes the big version of this panel, and then this whole panel. Oops, sorry. And it makes this quilt. And the big panel is cut up for the border with a little bit of the, and the pattern has instructions of exactly where to cut, and you take, you know, half of the top part, half of the bottom half, put this together for the top half. So it has a very good set of directions.
I like
Yeah. So I love the shadow idea too. So when the Farmer's Prayer panel came out, it was here. This is the classic one they did with the batiks from Winging a Prayer. But a lot of people thought, it's too big. I don't want to do that much piecing. It just makes me nervous. I don't want to do that much work. It wasn't that hard. Yeah, it wasn't. A lot of people were. Flying geese intimidate a lot of people. Yeah. So we used the shadow technique. I did a smaller wall hanging size. Oh, here. We were smart this time. Yeah. And so Cindy used the same technique. And this is a Northcott panel, farm panel. And then added some of the coordinating fabrics to it too. This one, you just have to get out a sheet of graph paper and figure out what size, what's the smallest size you can cut the panel and the biggest size you can cut the panel, and figure what size fits best where you need it.
And it ended up, I had this square in the middle, and it was an easy piecing, and I had to kind of do the Y seam, but it ended up that I did it what she told me to do. Yeah.
And stepping up is another one of the mountain peak patterns that the original pattern had a really ugly picture on it. We had at least 4 years, Diane would not make it. It was too ugly. And then somebody on Facebook had did it with chicken fabric. So we did it up with wildlife. And I had it at a show, and I heard somebody say, like, hey, on the phone, hey, you know that pattern we have on clearance? Pull it, I've got an idea. We knew we had done something right. So Cindy did this one using a pattern called Noble Menagerie. And the pattern is made for 10-inch blocks. We've taken it down to 6-inch, we've done 7-inch, we've done 8-inch. And then we might as well do bigger, because who doesn't need a quilt big enough for a basketball player? So this is with a 16-inch panel.
Wow.
You know, I do just adjust whether it's a 1.5, 2, 2.5, or 3-inch piece for the frame. And the block is upside down.
I know.
Yeah. Yeah. This is the block. You sew a cream strip on this side. You sew cream to brown on this side, cut it to the length, sew it on. Then you sew the cream strip across the top, and then another brown and cream strip. So you make a block. You sash a block. They just lay the blocks together. The only thing you have to remember is you have to have, if you have a directional fabric, it's half the blocks, you have to have the dark on top, and the other half you have to have the dark on the bottom. Otherwise you have an upside down quilt.
Janice Shogren did a quilt of valor for my husband using this, so that works out really well for a quilt of valor, using just any kind of patriotic fabric.
And then the Villa Rosa Gatherings is another fun pattern. This one is made according to the directions. And then this one is that we want one a little bit smaller. So we eliminated the wide sashing in the middle, the wide frame, and then the bottom and top border. And this one is almost like the pattern, except for we didn't want it, you really couldn't trim the panel down as narrow as they wanted it. So we added this red flat top in the middle of the mountain, stretch the mountain out to make it 6.5 inches wider.
And when you do something like that, you put the note in.
Yes, yes. And then, you know, you might as well make the king size quilt out of it too. Yeah, so this is the same pattern, except for we added, this was a bigger panel to begin with. And then we added a wider sash and then added one full extra mountain. This is kind of fun because these are all Northcott fabrics, but it's two different Eagle collections, but they tied in nicely together. And they also do panels and batiks. This pattern is called Bevels. It's another mountain peak pattern.
That one's easy to do too. They all are.
And then ×3 is another mountain peak pattern. And in the pictures, it's always using a regular fabric. Well, here we mixed a panel and a regular fabric. And then we have this little kids panel, which is rectangle squares. It's hard to find the pattern that makes rectangle squares, but they're the perfect size. So we made a baby quilt. Of course, the pattern has that size and 2 sizes bigger, but they don't have a baby quilt size. So of course, you have to add an addition to the pattern. If you're doing this, you only do half as many of everything. And then Celebrations is another Villa Rosa pattern. And in the pattern, it's done with like Civil War fabrics and homespun. So it's very dark. So that we had this rose panel that was different blocks of roses. So that, let's do a spring quilt. So like, this is a coordinating fabric. This is the panel. This is the coordinating fabric. That's a panel, coordinating fabric. So you intermix the two. And this is a cotton. The rose fabric is a cotton. Everything else is a batik. And one thing is we like to do a lot of batiks with the panels just because they have such a color variety. You can mix and match a lot easier. And they do Civil War panels. This is a Marcus panel that the Mariner's compasses are both, all 5 Mariner's compasses are pre-printed. Everything else is piece. You know, a couple more borders on this and you could have a nice bed size. And this is another Villa Rosa pattern called Beach Walk. And this is also, I call this the Dr. Heckle and Mr. Hyde deer, because that's the pale friendly deer. This is the dark mean deer.
No.
This is another very simple pattern and you know, it can be it's very forgiving. There's nothing you have to measure that has to match. Oh, no, well, if you do it big, let's do it small. So do it in half. You got a little baby beach walk. This is a pattern from Quilting Renditions called Sliders. Cindy pieced these two. Oops, it's upside down. This is pattern is much more difficult than it looks. It's
much more easier.
Yeah, much more easier than it looks. Yes. You know, square with quick corners on it. 3 strips sewn together, quick corners on. Look at So I have to do it. No,
They
it's the side.
do make you
hand.
do the quick corners and then throw that piece inside, but it goes really fast. Because they asked me to make that one for tonight, and if I would have sat down, it would have been 24 hours, I think. Get this one.
The grandchildren kind of slow you down. Oh,
Yeah.
So it took you what, 24?
Yeah.
I mean 48.
Right.
You know, and when we saw this pattern, oh, it's a cute little quilt. You're like, oh my gosh, this is not a little quilt.
No,
This
it's
is
a lot
big
bigger.
quilt.
Lot
That's not a
bigger.
big quilt. And they also do embroidery in panels. You know, they have like a lot of the crabapple hills, but those you all have to trace. Well, now they have some that come out that are already pre-printed. This is an older one from Marcus called Bundle Up. And in the original pattern, they did it all with teal plaids. To me, this already has almost too many plaids, and this has half. It has a third plaids they have. But it was fun. And this is their newest panel. I mean, and this is so well marked that you wouldn't even have to embroider it if you didn't want to. And they did it as a block of the month. They have a couple free patterns online, and then they did the block of the month. And we're just going to be starting that this spring, this summer. And we just embroidered the baskets. Mainly because I took it along to do during a show and at the election, the special election in Postal, and that's all I got done. Oh, I'm not that fast an embroiderer. And this is a pattern by Castilja Cotton. It has the Margiela top and bottom. It does say this afternoon, I think Mike's would have been a lot easier to do with his pattern with the Margiela at the bottom. Because this little tiny piece up here is, I think, cut 3/4 of an inch. I mean, you can't really see it. It's almost distracting how little that you see. And Peachtree has several patterns that work. They also have, when they first came out, they did some bigger cards. They were called, you know, big card 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, big card 5 is Easy Cuddle Quilt 3. And it has been, and they did it using Oriental fabric. So we adjusted the pattern, made it a little bit bigger, added more hourglasses to make it into a big quilt. And then if you wanted to make it even bigger quilt, you could repeat this hourglass border out. Or you could do another border of hourglasses or a border of piano keys. Or find some pretty big fabric. And then this one is for my sister's brother-in-law is a mechanic, and he had some health issues. And he had given Diane some t-shirts to make a quilt. Well, these were the leftover t-shirts. So she made him a t-shirt quilt with the mechanic shop in. This is Avenues. Yeah. This is a quilting rendition one called Avenues that Cindy did. And they also have a pattern where it takes a vertical panel and they put this on the side.
And it was called,
I said sidewalks, but it wasn't sidewalks.
side,
Yeah. Side step.
side steps. Yeah. Sandy Koenig quilts all our quilts of valor.
For the postal group. And this was a pattern from Quilting Treasures that she used a Timeless Treasures panel and somebody else's panel in. I can't remember who it is.
I think my daughter picked it up over at Red Rock. There was pieces left of it, so we put it in there. But that was a free pattern too.
This is another one of the cuddle quilts done with a smaller panel in the center. This is cubby hole. And what's nice about this pattern is the same pattern as a 24, a 30, and a 36-inch panel. So you get 3 quilts out of 1 pattern.
And all it is just lengthening that and making
Adding another horizontal here if you need to.
that was another easy one to do.
And a couple of years ago, our 7-stop shop hop you could buy a kit to do a black and white block, and each shop had a different block. Well, Cindy did the blocks.
And I think there was 8 that
Might have been, yeah. And then sashed it in red. Then put the cardinal panel in the middle. And it's not even the same red, it's all different.
No,
reds.
it was a 2.5-inch jelly roll.
I just realized that those super reds.
Nope, it's all different. Just trying to use that.
And then this is another Mountain Peak pattern. It's called Picture This. Quilting Renditions has one called Picture That.
And that's on the other side. It has both
this side, and the other. But the pattern makes a big quilt. So Cindy cut it down about in half to make a baby quilt.
Because this was the panel, and then this was the
Coordinated fabric.
Yeah. And then that was
the cows, yeah.
I collect cows, so that's what I did want.
And this one is a variation of side lights, which is Mountain Peak pattern. But the blocks are bigger and the panel is a little bit bigger.
I just cut it up to make it fit. They got me started on the panels, and that's what I like to do.
Yeah, and then you don't have to do don't do only quilts. This was a placemat pattern. 2 placemats, it's to hold your plastic bags. Diane loves sunflowers, so my sister Nancy made that for her birthday one year. And then use a placemat to make a bag. Or this was some little blocks left over from a project to make little mug rugs. I have a friend who made these a little bit bigger, and then she used Scotch Guard on it, and she uses for her mouse pad, for her computer. This was supposed to be a sewing machine cover, but my sewing machine is a long arm, so it won't fit in. So the roof of the cover is the bottom. So I made a bag out of it. And I wish I would have used a heavier, so it'd stand up. Or else it's just too big, then it's funky. And my other sister is into kind of cross stitch. And she was at the quilt shop, Country Sampler in Spring Green. And they had these project bags. And so she bought a panel to make a project bag with a zipper. So put a project in. And then the panel also had a little panel. So there's her thread and floss holder. And then she was like, I want a panel that has like a sampler type on it. So we had this panel. I don't think this is quite what she meant, but that's what she got.
Oh, that's neat.
So this one is a little bit taller because it uses a scroll frame. So a scroll frame will fit in there, and I just put a single handle on it. With a zipper. And then because she knows how I hate raccoons, she made me a raccoon. And this is what's left of the panel after she's done cutting it up. So I think we're going to do another one with the deer, even though he's not going to have any feet. And then we got a little fox out of it. And then I wanted to make another bag with this fabric, and then use this for like a band on it. So I think with that dark, you won't show the dirt as much as a lighter bag. And then this is the project bag that I bought that started her doing these in Nebraska, and they used an old Stephanie Brandenburg panel. And she said she could get 2 bags out of a 24-inch panel. Then she lined it, but she just zigzagged her seams. Nancy, when she did these, she said she put them wrong sides together, sewed them together, and then she bound it. So that way there is no raw edge anywhere. And it's the same lady who did this bag at the show in Nebraska. Her booth had these rugs on the floor. People were walking on the whole show. I was like, how do you make these rugs? She's like, oh, it's really simple. You take some canvas, you put some gesso on it, you let it dry. You put some Mod Podge on fabric, you put the fabric on it, you let it dry. You Mod Podge a couple more times, and put a couple coats of floor wax on it. Obviously, I need a little bit more instruction than that. So this is the first attempt. It's just a regular canvas on the back. You put gesso on it. She recommended using a roller brush. Well, I just had a regular brush at the time. I think I would have done the roller brush. I think would have done a better job. And then I let it dry. And then I put the fabric on, and then I brushed the Mod Podge over the fabric. I think I should have either put the Mod Podge on top of the gesso after it dried, or put it on the back of this fabric and then flipped it over and put it on it, and then Mod Podge it again. So I think it would have sealed better and looked better. But it's a learning curve.
What's it?
You put it on canvas, like to prepare it for artist painting. It's
like a primer.
Yeah, it's a jar about the size of face cream. That's $10.
But it does the job.
Yeah, it really does the job. And then she says if you put a couple coats of floor wax on, you can just wipe it off with a damp towel.
Okay. So did she just leave the edges raw then?
She did.
Okay.
See, and I think if I would have put the Mod Podge in between, it would have sealed it better. Where this guy has a lot of openings where I think that would seal it better. And it does. It is rather sealed.
Yeah. I think
I've been seeing her out for a while.
Yeah.
And like Cindy and I were just talking about maybe doing that for like little placemats for grandchildren.
Sure, could wipe off.
Yeah.
Or for patio set.
Yeah, and then this is just a piece of a canvas that I stretched fabric on and then Mod Podged it. And also my Mod Podge is 15 years old. That might have had a problem too. That's what I had. So anybody have any questions? Oh yeah, I made a list of some of our favorite companies for patterns and then for panels, and then a bookmark for our upcoming shop hop. And on the list, I forgot to write down if you're on Facebook. There's the One Block Wonder Quilts, which is a private group you can join, and then there's Panel Quilt Ideas. There's another private group you can join. It's got a lot of neat ideas.
The cold groups are really nice.
Yeah.
Yes.
Black
yeah,
holes,
I think. Anybody else have any questions? The kitchen counter, you brought the same panel, done 4 different ways, and the border fabric is in the 5th way. The far panel is a piece tree pattern called Twisted Panel. The next one is a pattern called Shenandoah. Then there's a pattern called Spotlights. And then the stair step one is a pattern called O. Henry. And then the end one is a mountain peak pattern called Trifecta. Just wanted to see what the same pattern looks, the same panel looks in different patterns.
Thank you. So when do you sleep?
Usually between the 9 and 6 or so. The cat doesn't like to come in until like 30.
It works. So then I